We have been told that we are living in a democracy. We have been told that we are in a system where there is equal opportunity for everyone. Tragically, we have been told a gigantic lie, and that lie has been told over and over and over and over again. We are living in a system of racism, white supremacy. It is not a system of equal opportunity. It is a system wherein, let me go to my blackboard. Can you all see this board, or I don't know if it can be seen. Sometimes I think the blackboard is my security blanket. But we have to, each and every one of us, we have to have it clearly in our heads that we are on a planet in which we have been told we are the minority. Let everyone in this audience put it in their brain computer once and for all. That's the first big lie. 1/10 of the people on this planet have skins that are white. Only 1/10. 9/10 of the people on this planet, the overwhelming majority, are black, brown, red, and yellow. We must put this in our brain, and even if you find yourself saying, as a minority, check yourself and say, wait a minute, I made a mistake. Because this big deception, training the vast and overwhelming majority of people to consider themselves a minority, is psychological warfare. It's to make the majority feel minuscule in terms of numbers. So repeat after me. The black, brown, red, and yellow people on this planet are the overwhelming majority people on planet Earth. Fine, class. The second gigantic lie is that something is wrong with the genetics of black people. 21 years ago, I debated Dr. William Shockley, the Nobel Prize laureate. He was then a professor at Stanford University. And those of you who are old enough like me remember he was going around talking about black genetic inferiority and that black people should have themselves sterilized so that they will not keep on polluting the planet with our degraded genetic material. 21 years later, we have Dr. Charles Murray and the late Richard Herrenstein singing the same song. In fact, there has never been a period, certainly for the people in this area of the world, the black people, there has never been a point at which people who classify themselves as white did not think that they were genetically superior to people whose skins were black. My grandfather, Dr. Henry Clay Cress, who died in 1909. A short time ago, I had an opportunity to see some papers that were in an old trunk. And my grandfather had written, I never knew him in person. I only knew my grandmother used to say your grandfather was a race man. That meant that he considered his identification with other black people to be a priority. But my grandfather had written, "How dare anyone think they are superior based on their skin being white." You see, but this hype about black people being genetically inferior is a denial of reality and a projection. As a psychiatrist, this is what I mean, and I said this last week in the debate, that anybody who goes around saying, I'm superior, hey, did you hear? I'm superior. That person is not really feeling superior. I said superiority always speaks for itself. You never have to wave a banner. But in my attempt to understand what racism is all about, because I wanted to be a good psychiatric physician to black people primarily, because they didn't have all of the psychiatric physicians that they needed. And when I took histories on black patients and found that their problems, whether it was drugs or alcohol or depression or psychosis, was stemming from confrontation with this horrible destructive force in the environment that we call racism, I said, I got to understand what that really is all about. And so looking at this fact that, wait a minute, these people who put this big lie out that they're the majority are really the minority. And the second big lie that something was wrong with our genetics, but in reality, white skin. This is not Francis Welsing's genetics that I cooked up in my apartment. Skin whiteness is defined by white people themselves, but when they were talking about a white mouse or a white bunny rabbit, not themselves, that this is a genetic deficiency state. It is albinism. It is genetic recessive as opposed to being genetically dominant. So I put those two things together and said, I've got it. This is what racism is really all about. This tiny minority of people whose own scientists have said that white is a genetic deficiency state, and it is recessive, figured out after they ended up circumnavigating the globe. People of color had circumnavigated the globe long before that. But people whose skins were white did not circumnavigate the globe until starting in the 15th century. And when they found out that everybody on the planet was colored, every place they stopped, every place those boats crash landed, it was some more colored people. And the colored people were receptive, kind, and fed these strangers. And they even allowed themselves to have sexual intercourse with the strangers. And the strangers found out, if they waited 9 months, that all of the children ended up looking like the colored mothers. And so they decided, we have a color problem. They didn't have to have a big genetics conference. They didn't even have the formal science of genetics at that point. But they found out that black plus white equals color. Brown plus white equals color. So-called red plus white equals color. Yellow plus white equals color. And it didn't take high-level intelligence, really, to conclude, what if these men of color got in boats and started going in the other direction? And they landed. And the ladies said their ideal mate was tall, dark, and handsome. They realized that white could disappear. Are you with me?